The world of music is home to many influential individuals and groups, and one of the most notable was undoubtedly the late David Bowie. Even till his death, the man never stopped making music, with clever lyrics and experimental tracks that jumped through genres. Although he was very talented, the man had a very weird but creative side to him that allowed him to push through his boundaries of his music, especially with the inclusion of creating personas throughout his musical career that he depicted through live shows and PR events such as photo shoots and interviews, as they represented the themes he was going for. Today I will talk about his five main characters, being Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane, Halloween Jack, the Thin White Duke, and the Blind Prophet. First, I'll talk about David Bowie's first realized character, Ziggy Stardust. Now, Bowie did have characters previous of Ziggy, such as Major Tom, which was depicted in the Space Oddity music video. Major Tom was more of a blueprint for Ziggy because Ziggy was much more developed. Pretty weird looking guy, and that is because Ziggy is an otherworldly rock star alien that comes down from his world to our world to warn us that the Earth is going to die in 5 years, as explained in the tie-in album titled The Rise of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Of course, the character played in live shows, and in the album itself was a big musical hit that allowed Bowie to climb up to the top as a musical artist to keep an eye on. The media, of course, had very positive reactions for such a bright and fresh new idea, and they just waited for more. References are to Alan Light's article in the Rolling Stone. After Ziggy, Bowie would soon evolve the character to his next stage, Aladdin Sane. Disregarding the giant lightning bulb across his face, Aladdin Sane looks very similar to Ziggy Stardust, and that's because Aladdin Sane is Ziggy, gone mad and corrupted by American influence, specifically Hollywood, because for Aladdin Sane, the self-titled album was about a mental illness, Ziggy's downfall, and his creation as Aladdin Insane, which is Aladdin Insane play on words. The inspiration came to Bowie about changing Ziggy's character when he was fearful that mental illness may be running down his family when he learned that a relative had such a case of mental illness. References are regarding to Rob Sheffield's Rolling Stone article. After Aladdin, Ziggy, would finally Bowie would close Bowie will complete this character trilogy with Ziggy's final transformation as Halloween Jack. Now, there isn't much about Halloween Jack because the other characters were much more developed. But Halloween Jack is still very important because he was Ziggy's final transformation as a gang leader in a dead dystopian world that we know as Earth, of course, foretold in one of the previous albums in Ziggy Stardust. Bowie would use this character in live shows to perform songs from the tie-in album Diamond Dogs, which was very inspired by George Orwell's novel 1984. There's two tracks in the album that are very heavily referenced, such as Big Brother and 1984. After Aladdin, Bowie would finally retire Ziggy's multi-phase character and go on to make a new character, a new, bold, darker character, the Thin White Duke. Now, the Thin White Duke was a very controversial figure because he was modeled after fascist ideals and had a fascination for Adolf Hitler. The tight collared shirt, the combed back hair, and his demeanor during live shows and interviews really gave the character as if he was a superior being in a very narcissistic way. It was very bad for media and it didn't do his image very good. Of course, the character didn't last very long because Bowie during the time had a cocaine addiction and the character reinforced it. Luckily, in music industry, colleagues such as Iggy Pop helped him go through this case and he was able to recover and retire the character for good. References being Asher Khan's Timeline article. After the Thin White Duke, many characters were there before, but they weren't as impactful as his last character because right before his death, Bowie would bring his final character to life and his final album with the character being the Blind Prophet. The blind prophet depicted here in the music video is titled Lazarus and Black Star for the album, his final album, Black Star, depicted him as a demented old man with binds across his head and beads covering his eyes because it represented his struggle and his pain that he was going to die very soon. He couldn't do nothing about it and it's inedible, so he hence named himself the Blind Prophet. Black Star is very important because it was right before it released, right before his death, and it was him coming to terms with his inevitable death. Hence why the character is named this. In conclusion, David Bowie's career made him get hit after hit with music. He was going along the constant change of time and going with the culture, making sure that he was always on the top, almost always on the top. But with these characters, he was able to become our unforgettable Starman. Thank you for listening.